Good morning to our Year 5 Green Group. I hope you're ready. We're going to begin our Monday morning lesson. Now today we are using a more practical approach, so you can do this by using equipment in your home, pasta, rice, or anything like that could help you with this activity, or you could use a page in your maths book using the squares. Let's have a look. Today we're going to recap on some of our skills. We're going to be dividing 100 into 2, 4, 5 and 10 equal parts. Let's get ready with some warm-up questions. Have a look at all these pictures on our board. Which of these representations, these pictures, are showing us 100? Pause the video and have a think by counting and thinking which ones make 100. When you are ready, let's have a look at our answers. Actually, they all show 100. Let's have a look why. In this first example, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 groups of 10, and we know together 10 groups of 10 make 100. We've split them into one group of 50 and another group of 50. So I have two groups of 50 making 100 altogether. Onto this one. In our tens frame, you can see that we have split our 100 down into groups of 10. How many groups of 10 do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 individual groups of 10 makes 100. On our bar model, we have 20 and we have that 5 little groups. If we add them together, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 5 groups of 20 make 100. What is going on then in this bottom group? We can see I have a group here made up of 2 tens and 5 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 tens are 20 and 5 ones makes 25. How many of those have I got? I've got 1 here, which makes 25. I have another group of 25 and I have another group of 25. So there are 4 groups of 25 that are making that 100. 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. On here, we have got a 100 square of 10 across and 10 down. And when we multiply 10 times 10, we end up with 100 squares altogether. So each one here is representing 100 altogether. Let's learn then for today. We're going to use everything we've just looked at to help us in our learning. How many different ways could you represent 100 using things you might have in your home? Have a think. Here you can see I've made one using my base 10. I have made 10 groups with 10 in each, so that is 100. We can use these representations to divide 100. Take this 100 and I'm going to split it into 2 equal groups. I'm going to share these out between 2 equal groups, like this. I end up with 5 tens in this group and 5 tens in this group. So that is 50 and 50. 100 divided into 2 groups is 50 in each group. So I can record that as 100 divided by 2 equals 50. Now I'd like you to have a go, and you could do it by drawing or by building with things you have at home, dividing 100 into 4 groups. What do you notice? Do the groups stay the same size? Do they get bigger or smaller than this 50? Let's have a look. What happens with mine? If I want to split that into 4 groups, I need to take one of those away. And one of those 10s need to be exchanged for 10 ones. And I'm going to share those 10 ones between those 2 groups to make it into 4 groups. Take one away, exchange it, and split it. So now I've taken this 10 and made it into 2 5s, and I've taken another 10 and made it into 2 5s. I've now divided my 2 groups here down into 4 groups. In here, I've got 2 10s and 5 1s. That's 25. And each group has the same. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. What do we notice? We notice that as the group size gets bigger, the amount you have in the group gets smaller. Now I'd like you to use your representations to divide 100 into 5 equal groups. I'd then like you to try making it into 10 equal groups. What do you notice this time? Have a think. Let's have a look. Were you correct? So we've taken our 100, because this is 100 altogether, and we've made it into 5 groups. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. How many are there in each group? 10, 20. And they're each the same. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. We record it like this. What about if I take my 100 and divide it into 10 equal groups? Each one of those is now split into its own separate group, and there are 10 of those groups. How many in each one? Just 10. 1 10 in each group. We can record that as 100 divided into 10 equal groups equals 10 in each group. What do you notice this time? When I had 5 groups, and then I made it into twice as many groups, now I had 10 groups, the number 20 has halved and become 10. The children are investigating different ways to divide 100 by 2, by 4, by 5, and by 10, just like you're doing. Here's Amir. He's going to try using a place value grid. Annie's going to use a 100 square, and she's going to try cutting it or folding it to make it into equal parts. Lastly, Jack is going to use the partitioning method that we used at the beginning of the lesson. The children are investigating 100 and dividing it into 2, 5, 4 and 10. So here's Amir, and he wants to use a place value grid. He's going to split that down into 10s and 1s. When he's dividing by 2, he's going to have 1 row, 2 rows. So that's 1 row, 2 rows when we're dividing by 2. So he takes his 100 as 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And he's going to share them between this row and that row. Because they're 10s, they can only go in my 10s column. Let's share them out. Is that equally? Do both rows have the same number? Let's check. The top row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the bottom row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, they are equal. How many on each row? There are 5 tens, so 100 divided into 2 rows makes 50 on each row. Use Amirs method using the place value chart and counters, which you can do by drawing, to divide the 100 into 4, so you'd need 4 rows, 5, you'd need 5 rows, and 10, you'd need 10 of these rows. Have a think whether you might need to exchange some coins for 10 ones. Here you can see Jack using his partition method. He's splitting his 100 into 2 50s. He's then dividing both of those parts by 5. 50 divided by 5 is 10, because 5 times 10 would give me 50. 50 divided by 5 is still 10. We need to recombine or add together these two parts to get the final answer of 20. So 100 divided by 5 is 20. Try using Jack's method to divide 100 by 2, by 4, and by 10. Do you find this easier? How will you partition that 100 each time to make it easier for yourself? Is there more than one way to do it? Have a think, have a play, see how you get on. Finally, we come to Annie. She's going to use a 100 square. Here's the 100 square. She's going to cut right in the middle. So how many parts will she have? That's right, she's cut it into 2 parts. So she's taken her 100 and divided it by 2. In each part, there are now 50 squares. Could you use Annie's method to divide 100 by 4, so you would have 4 equal parts, by 5, so you would have 5 equal parts, and by 10, so you would have 10 equal parts? Have a go. Do you find this an easier method? Is there more than one way to cut it into equal parts each time? Have a think and try. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. 100 divided by 4 is 25. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And 100 divided by 10 is 10. Record these facts down. You're going to need to use them in the next section. Are there any patterns? Well, if I double 2, it makes 4. So I've doubled the amount of parts. What have I done to 50 to get to 25? That's right, I've halved it. What about on this side? Let's have a look. When I take my 100 and halve it, the sizes are 50. But if I split that 50 in half again, so we've divided it into 4 parts, each part is worth 25 now. That's why it works. On this side, if I double 5, I make it into 10, so I'm doubling the amount of parts that I will have. Therefore, the amount in each part will have to halve because I'm sharing it between more parts. Let's have a look at the model. Here we have 5 parts representing 20, but you can see when I've had to split it into 10 parts, each of those parts is split again. So I've shared that 20 between 2 further parts, so we've halved it. Let's have a look at this one. Have a think. What could each part represent? Remember, the square would need to represent the same number each time, the triangles would represent the same number each time, and so on. Let's have a look. I started here because there's 2 squares. 100 divided by a number gives me the same number as an answer. 10. Fill in the rest. Let's have a look at this one. 100 divided by 5 is 20. 100 divided by a number is 50. And the last one.